welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Terry. I'm your host, Terry Cato. I'm excited and I'm honored to have sitting beside me Miss Sheila Shaw, who is the first Black Miss Fresno County. Welcome to Real Talk with Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for opening up your home to the show. We're excited to talk to you about your journey, and I'm just so proud to be able to share with our viewers your memoir, which is the Sheila Anthony Story, a memoir which is available, right?
Yes.
So we're going to deep dive into your book. And the first thing I want to know as a fellow author myself is what motivated you to write a memoir and to share your story?
Wow, several things motivated me. I just didn't know if I could do it.
Okay.
And so I went to a couple conferences and listened to other entrepreneurs who were writing. And I decided, came home one day and I thought, what do I want to do? I'm at this age, what do I want to do? But why do I want to do it? So as I started to really dig into my why, my what became more apparent. And I wanted to help other people who've struggled through illness or sadness or divorce or just various trials that come along in their lives. Mm-hmm. And I thought, Lord, if you can use me to help them or to show some sunlight and a ray of light and hope in their life, that's what I wanted to do.
Awesome. And I know we were briefly chatting before we started taping. If you could give a little bit of detail, perhaps, how you spoke this book into existence, how you originally weren't planning to write a book. You were at a conference, almost 2 years ago now.
Yes.
And some ladies, could you just share that story, just share it with the viewers, kind of how you put the book into the atmosphere, and now we have your memoir.
Yes. So what happened was I was on an elevator, and a couple of ladies I started talking to, they questioned and asked me, why was I walking with a cane? And I kept getting that same question over and over and over. And so I said, well, let me get this down to a 60-second elevator speech, and so that I can tell people quickly and capture their attention, give them a little bit of information. So I did that, and as I got off the elevator after I told the story, I thanked the ladies for allowing me to be able to share with them. And what happened was I got off, and they got off too. And it shocked me that they got off, and they said, no, wait 1 second. You can't leave us hanging there. You got to tell us the rest. Mm-hmm. And I opened my mouth and said, well, you're just going to have to wait for my book.
Love it.
And as I walked away, I said, why did I say that? I'm not writing a book.
That's amazing.
But that was the opening of me writing the book.
Awesome.
And so I came home, and as I thought about it and processed it, I said, it's time to write the book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you share in the book a lot of detail about your childhood and your relationship with your mother mm-hmm. and her faith and your relationship with your siblings. You guys are all very close. And as I was reading the book, I really enjoy getting to know each of your siblings. I love how you kind of dedicate a section to each sibling. How did your childhood and just watching your mother and her amazing faith, how did that help you become the person that you are today?
I just find my mother she was the most wonderful, loving, kind woman to everyone, everybody in the neighborhood, all the kids in the neighborhood, my brother's entire football team. Mm-hmm. We were always hosting someone. And my mother was a praying woman, loved to sing. She would always sing when she was cooking. Mm-hmm. And as I watched her pray over us each and every day as she sent us out into school, mm-hmm. that she was so dedicated to her work before God mm-hmm. and providing for her family. I am a mama's girl. Mm-hmm. I loved being with my mother. I didn't ever want to move out. I couldn't
What do you
understand why
mean?
anybody would want to move out. Why? Because Mom cooked all the time,
True.
and we had great conversations, and she was always very open with me. And she could ask me a question and I could answer. You know, I didn't feel afraid to answer.
Awesome.
And we talked about everything as what a young woman should know. And so I love that part about my mother being just there. And although me and all of my siblings are different, we each have different talents. She never made a difference. She nurtured what was in each of us.
Awesome. That's awesome. And speaking of different talent, as we know, you were very in pageants and you did a lot of things, but you had a brother that played in the NFL.
Yes.
So you talk about all of your siblings, but I mean, not everybody has that testimony. My brother played in the NFL, and he played for USC, right?
And he played for USC.
My husband is a huge USC fan. So as I mentioned to you, I was reading your book on heading down to Southern California for vacation. And so I'm reading the book, and I get to that part where you're talking about that particular brother, and I'm telling my husband, like, hey, honey, her brother played for USC. That's your school, right? And he's like, what's his name? And what year was he there? And did he play with O.J. Simpson? And that was his question. He's like, was he before O.J.? So in his head, he's trying to calculate, okay, was he before O.J. or after O.J.? I was like, I don't know.
He was after O.J.
Okay, so he was after O.J.
Yes.
Simpson.
And my brother playing in the NFL made me very popular.
Yes, absolutely.
High school was wonderful because every Monday was football, and every Tuesday we discussed what happened in football.
Of course.
And then one day he surprised me and he came to the school.
Oh,
And
nice.
all of the football players just thought I was the greatest.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was like, I didn't think I was popular at all. I just wanted to go to school and do my work. But my brother just had an amazing talent to play. I got to see 3 Rose Bowls.
Yes.
And so just seeing him, use the God-given talent, he was very, very fast. And he started his very first year.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
That's
usually that
awesome.
doesn't happen.
Oh, absolutely. No, that is amazing.
You get
That's
to
a
warm the
blessing.
bench.
Yes, well, true. You kind of have to work your way up.
Yes.
That's awesome. So
And
I
he
enjoyed
proved
it.
to the coach that he could do it.
That he could do it. That's
Yes.
amazing. So I really enjoyed it. I love reading about all of your siblings, but I thought that was so cool that you actually had a brother that played for USC. He was good. He was amazing, an amazing athlete, and he also went on to the NFL. So that's great. So let's go back to you. So let's find out, how did you find the pageant world? What was your first pageant? How did you even, because that's an entire culture in and of itself, is pageants.
Right.
And how did you journey into pageants?
Pageants are really quite interesting. And my mother's friends used to always say, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. And I was never taught to, beauty is fleeting, beauty can fade. But my mom said, you do have a beauty. There's a beauty within you that needs to come out.
Absolutely.
So as we were reading, the first pageant I was in was the Miss Fresno pageant. And it primarily was a pageant for African American girls because a lot of times they were not encouraged to enter the other pageants. And so that pageant was a learning curve because I think everything that you could possibly do wrong in a pageant, I did.
Okay.
And so from picking my song, which I picked Michael Jackson, You Can't Win. And I thought,
That's a great song.
it's kind of telling, he's telling you can't win, but really there's hope.
Right.
And I was told that I picked a negative song.
Okay.
So I learned. And so what happened was as I started to enter the pageants, I knew that there was scholarship money.
Right.
That became very important because my mom did not have the money to put me through school as well. And so my brother got a scholarship. And so with that, I thought, scholarship, pageants. Wow, God didn't give me this for nothing. Let's use it.
Right.
Use your brain, use what he's given you. And so I entered the pageants. And the scholarship money did come in handy when you could get into that first and second place.
Absolutely.
And so that was my very first one. I did not place. It was a learning experience.
Okay.
I wrote down everything that I did
That's
and everything that I needed to do and to change.
Right.
So I started to learn from the pageants
Yes.
and what was, required to become the next pageant or the next queen.
That's amazing. I like what you just said. You took that first pageant and you said you did not place. You did not win. You did not place, but you wrote down everything.
Yes.
You used that as a learning experience. And sometimes that in and of itself is a message to somebody out there. Is
Yes.
even if you fall short of whatever your goal is, use it as a learning experience and you write down what you learned, what you would have done differently. So that's amazing that you looked at that not as, oh wow, I lost, but no, what could I learn?
Right.
What can I take away from that? And that led to you entering your
Second
next pageant.
So the second pageant was Miss Fresno County, USA.
Awesome.
That goes to the Miss California, USA, to Miss Universe.
Awesome. That is amazing. So I want to hear about that. But what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to transition and we're going to talk a little bit more about your journey in the Miss Fresno County pageant. So
Yes.
thank you.
The sun rises after the sunset.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Terry, and I'm here with Miss Sheila Shaw, the first Black Miss Fresno County. So, could you just tell us a little bit more about your journey as Miss Fresno County? How did you find out about the pageant? What was this journey like? And, maybe some other pageants that you were a part of?
Yes. Well, I started with the Miss Black Fresno pageant, and then I went into the Miss Fresno County, USA, which goes to the Miss Universe. Got first runner-up in that, and I thought, okay, well, let's just try one more. And sitting in the student union one day and eating French fries. I won't say I was supposed to be in class.
Okay.
My girlfriends and I picked up the student newspaper, and it says, looking for contestants. And so I sat there and I said to him, we could do this. Why don't you guys join in with me? Look, we're good looking, we're smart, and we can walk in heels. Not a problem.
Love it.
So I got him to go down with me. We filled out our applications, and we entered the Miss Fresno County pageant.
Okay.
And out of 9 contestants, and I was determined to win. I was determined. I had entered, this is at this point, my 3rd pageant, and everything that I had done not correct, I learned how to do correct.
Awesome.
I talked to the people who were in pageants and learned some information of what they expected, what you needed to do, and I did everything to the letter. And I went in that night even with the negative statements sometimes of you will never win because they've never had an African American Miss Fresno County. And I thought, well, that just makes me even more determined. And so I just went for it. I read the Power of Positive Thinking.
Awesome.
I did affirmation after affirmation, and I decided that I was going for the win. And if I did not win, then it wasn't meant to be.
Right.
And it happened to be my night.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I won.
And you won. That's amazing. That is amazing. I love your positive attitude and your positive outlook and how you talked about you had affirmations. And regardless of what people were telling you, you didn't let that deter you.
No.
And that is such an encouraging word for other people out there, is that, sometimes you are going to be up against insurmountable challenges and people telling you what you can't do.
Yes.
But as long as you have the power within you, sometimes you have to encourage yourself.
Yes.
And as long as you know that you can do it. So look at what happened. You became a history maker.
Yes.
You made history.
And the interesting thing is I just wanted the crown. I'm like every little girl. I wanted the crown.
Absolutely.
And it never, until after it actually happened, I figure out that I just made history.
Right.
I was a first.
A trailblazer.
And, now hopefully other little girls will see themselves as beautiful.
Absolutely.
And they'll go and they know they're smart enough and they're beautiful enough.
Right.
and that it shouldn't have anything to do with the color of your skin.
Absolutely.
But you can just be a contestant and win.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that positive outlook, and that positive spirit that you have is so encouraging. And even despite that, despite your infectious energy and the fact that you're beautiful and you're smart, you had some bumps in the road
Yes.
with your reign.
Yes.
Would you like to share any
Yes.
of that?
Well, like most things, it looks really good when you get it. And then you have to start to go through things. And what ended up happening was there were some people who still, even after I won, did not believe that I looked like what Miss America should look like. And they were not afraid to tell me that. But at the same time, I thought, well, but I've won and I have the crown and I want to represent to the best of my ability.
Right.
And I wasn't going to let them take that away from me,
Right.
At all. And so I still wanted other young girls to know that when those obstacles come against you, when people are saying, no, you're not it, no, you can't do this, you still have to believe enough in yourself
Absolutely.
to just forge forward.
Absolutely.
Because they, when I say they, when people try to continue to tell you that, they want to try to dampen your spirit.
Right.
They want you to quit. And I refuse to quit.
Absolutely. That's
I
right.
was going to ride that reign out to the last day.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did. And since then, I know that there has been one other young lady many years later that has won.
Okay.
And so I'm hoping that as I, blaze that trail, that others will say, you know what, I can do this.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to enter because I'm a good enough person to do that.
Awesome. That's great. And in terms of, I don't want to belabor this, but just, one other question about the pageant, because quite honestly, it was really an injustice, really, the way that, how you weren't allowed to traditionally reign
Yes.
as a Miss Fresno County would reign, for example, and you share all of this in your book. So you guys, please get her book, because you go into some detail about your journey, about how you weren't allowed to crown your successor.
Yes.
You
Yes.
weren't.
They skipped over me. And so the young lady who won first runner-up the year I won, they crowned her as the next Miss Fresno County, and then took her to the Miss California pageant. And I was never asked to just even take a photo with her and hand the
Right.
crown to her.
Right.
It was as if I didn't exist.
Right.
I was not given the opportunity to do the sponsorships,
Right.
for car dealerships or ribbon
Right.
cuttings or new buildings or any of
Right.
that.
So you did, what was it, one or two
Yes.
public appearances?
Yes, it
Which
was a
is-
couple, and one was actually, it was an elderly picnic that I went to, and I had a great time because
Right.
my godparents were alive, and I love being around elderly people. I
Right.
love hearing about their history and their
Right.
families. So I did not make little of that because it was a
Absolutely.
very important event.
Right.
Because I met some very wonderful people.
Right.
The Loggers Jamboree was probably the take-all.
Okay.
And because I consider myself kind of a city girl, and I really didn't think about what the Loggers Jamboree meant.
Right. So,
And it
well,
was,
what actually is a Loggers Jamboree?
It was in Norfolk and California, and
Okay.
they actually roll on logs on the water.
Really interesting.
They do an
Okay.
entire, whole day of chopping down trees and rolling on logs, and it's a huge event for that town.
Right.
And I had never heard of it. So I actually rode the Pepsi-Cola float, and with the cartoon characters of the Roadrunner and the Coyote. They were my friends for a whole year.
Right.
And so that part was fun.
Okay.
And
awesome.
the town, they were very nice. They have this tradition of throwing pennies. at the float, which I had never heard of before.
Well, me either, coming from a Mardi Gras town.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so they throw pennies at the float.
Yes, and they
Interesting.
land on the float. So
Yes,
that was a
interesting.
very interesting experience. for
Okay,
me.
and just out of curiosity, what do they do with the pennies once they land on the float? Is it like donated to charity? Or?
I'm not sure what happened to the
pennies?
pennies.
I'm just wondering. You
I would like to know to this day what happened to the
what
pennies
happened
too.
to all those pennies?
So they did tell me, they
Interesting.
say be prepared because when you go through town, they're going to start throwing pennies at the float. And I was
Okay.
like, okay.
Interesting.
So they
Very
just throw them so that
interesting.
they land on the platform of the.
Okay.
of the
Okay.
float.
Interesting. Okay, that's a very interesting.
Yes.
I don't know, tradition, but and the last thing. So, did you go on to the Miss California pageant?
Yes.
Right, you did. So
Yes.
from Miss Fresno County, you did go on to the Miss California pageant,
Right.
and how did you do there?
I represented Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of 32 contestants. And again, I was the only African American.
And this was
It was held in Santa Cruz, California.
held in Santa Cruz, California in 1980. This was in 1980.
In 1980.
Wow. Really, that's not that long ago.
No.
It's not that long ago. 1980, and you were the only Black contestant in the Miss
Yes.
California pageant.
Yes.
Wow. In
And a
1980.
very quick funny story is the last year they had it there in Santa Cruz, I was actually on stage in swimsuit when a lady walked up to the stage and she was protesting that we were being treated as pieces of meat, she said.
Okay.
And she threw a frozen steak on the stage.
Really?
And they rushed us off the stage, and it was the most interesting thing because, I mean, I'd never had so much excitement in my entire life.
Right.
So I had never had anybody do that, and I thought as young ladies, we were showing that we were healthy young ladies, and the swimsuits were not over-revealing.
Right.
They were one-piece swimsuits, and we were just showing that we took care of our bodies.
Right, absolutely.
And, you know, to take it anywhere else, that just really wasn't fair to us as the
Right.
young ladies that were representing,
Right.
you know, the state.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, good. Well, this has been great. Well, the exciting news is you are actually working on your second book,
Yes.
which will actually deep dive into your entire pageant experience, because you were in a total of what, 5 pageants?
Yes.
You were in a total of
Four.
in a total of 4 pageants. So you're working on a follow-up book, which is going to detail the journey and your pageants.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that one. So we're going to kind of pivot from the pageants, because you talk about something else in your memoir, which I think is a strong testament of your faith and who you are as a person, and how your mother influenced you with her great faith. And that is the issue of your health.
Yes.
So if you could just share with the viewers, for those who don't know you, you battle with an illness for what, 15?
For 15
For
years.
15 years, and you
Yes.
were misdiagnosed. You were diagnosed and undiagnosed.
Diagnosed 4 times.
So it's an amazing story, and we do want you to read the book, because Sheila gives some great information on just trusting and believing,
Yes.
you know, and leaning on your faith when you're going through a difficult time. But if you
Yes.
can just tell the viewers a little bit about what you were going through and kind of how you got to be where you are today, because you look beautiful. You don't
Thank you.
look like a person that was afflicted with an illness for 15 years. So.
It was very rough. About in 1999, I started to feel very tired and fatigued. And first thing in my mind was, okay, you're not working out enough. And so I tried to work out more, and it just wasn't working. I was so tired and kept going to the doctor and going to the doctor. And after a while, I have to give doctors this. I don't badmouth any doctors. They're put there for a reason to help us. And then sometimes they just don't know. And I think sometimes the hardest thing for them is to say, I don't know. And so I saw many doctors, and we had many wonderful doctors that did help us. But I saw about 50, I think we stopped counting at 55. Wow. Plus, I spent a year at testing at Stanford, and we still did not come up with a diagnosis.
Right.
And my husband, who married me anyway, and I kept saying, I'm sick, you don't want to marry me? And he's like, well, let me decide what I want to do.
Right.
So you can read his 2 chapters in the book, which tells you a little bit about what we went through.
Right.
It was very rough because I went from a very healthy 40-something-year-old young woman to being completely bedridden. I went from a cane to a walker to a wheelchair to being lifted in and out of bed, in and out of the shower.
Right.
And I could still feed myself, but I couldn't sit here and have a conversation with you without hyperventilating or going into spasms. And that went on and on and on, and the pain sometimes was very excruciating. So I concentrated on my devotionals, talking to God quite a bit, just praying every day, journaling as much as I could. Sometimes it was just a small paragraph, just tell God how I felt that day. And my husband said I never blamed God or asked for a meaning. I knew God, that he knew exactly what was wrong with me. And he knew exactly when he'd bring me out of it. And I hung on to that.
Awesome.
And I kept my little seed, the size of a mustard seed. And I held on to that faith.
Absolutely.
And I want to share with others that, when you're going through this, for me, my faith and what my mother had instilled in me was very, very important. And that's what brought me through.
Awesome. That's awesome. It's an amazing testament to your faith, to go from being bedridden to being in a wheelchair, to being a walker, to using a walker, to a cane. And now you can
Reverse.
Reverse. You went backwards, and you now you don't need, and we're speaking it into existence, because I know sometimes you rely on your cane a little bit, but in Jesus' name you don't need the cane anymore.
When I can find it, my husband teases me, because most of the time I am asking, where is it?
Right, and it's like, okay, if you need to ask for the cane, you
don't
really need it.
Exactly.
So I love it. So that's just amazing. It's amazing faith, and you detail that journey in your book, and you also talk about a very important topic, and that's and we didn't have a chance to really talk about it, but I want to encourage people to read the book, because you talk about the issue with the sterilization of Black women and your experience with that. So it's just an amazing, amazing book. So I encourage you guys to get it all. And as we get ready to wrap this segment, I am excited to also share with the viewers that an artist, a singer, songwriter, she read the first 3 chapters of your book, was so inspired that she wrote a song about your journey. And it is beautiful. You let me hear it during the break, and I love it. So just like your book, the song is the Sheila Anthony Shaw song, Sunrise After Sunset by DJs, which is beautiful. So you guys, feel free to pick up Sheila's book, buy the CD. We're going to play some of it during this segment. But as we close, is there anything else that you would want to leave the viewers with? Because I encourage people to just read the book. It will bless you. Trust me.
Yes. What I'd like to say is just, as you read the book, I pray that it will be inspiring, and that there will be a word there for you, that you will see hope in there. And the whole reason I wrote it was I just wanted to leave a legacy for my family, that they would know where their grandmother came from, my great nieces and nephews, that they would know how we got here. And everything wasn't always easy. And that it wasn't, we didn't have a lot of money, but that no matter where you came from, that you can be very proud of it, and you don't have to be ashamed of it.
Absolutely.
And that God will take you forward from there.
Amen. I believe that. I'm a witness. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story with the viewers. This has been great. It's been very inspiring for me. So I'm excited for you and your continued journey, for total healing that we know you have, and for your next book. I'm excited to read the next book. So I just want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk with Terry. Make this a great one, and everybody have a blessed day. And until next time, thank you very much.